Hey, good morning. We're rocking and rolling this morning. We've got our coffee and we have an absolutely fantastic guest, somebody that is going to give us some true wisdom today. So let's get started.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You're just flipping people everywhere.
I just did a cartwheel.
Heather's like, just leave me in my spot, please. Don't be flipping me around.
I'm okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. It is a great day in the Fusion One Lounge. I'm Glenna Hum, and around the square here, we have our other marketing gurus, Sarah Gilliland and Kelsey Nicholson. We're having so much fun talking to business people and just getting tips and tricks for all of us to use. And before we get started, Sarah, will you pop up our broadcast, please?
I would be glad to. Okay, so don't forget, every single week we go live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can always subscribe to our awesome podcast, Marketing and a Mic, and follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn. And don't forget about our YouTube channel. Woohoo! Let me tell you, every single week we're putting out brand new, fresh videos, good content, all digital marketing, business related stuff you gotta know about. So check that out.
Yes. And today we are so excited about our guest. I'm going to tell you, this could not be more timely. With all the stress we're all going through or have been going through this whole year, we've got COVID, we've got elections, we've got family, we have just everything. This lady has the answers to solve all our problems. So I want to go ahead and introduce our awesome guest today, Heather Davis with Waterstone Counseling. Good morning.
Good morning, ladies. How are y'all?
We're doing great. We are so excited to have you here today.
Thank you for asking. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, let me tell you, you bring such a nice energy. So we're really excited that you're with us this morning.
Yeah, so listen up, everybody. She's got some great info here. So let's just go ahead and get started, Heather. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Waterstone Counseling and some of the services that you offer?
Absolutely. Well, Waterstone Counseling is a counseling and consulting organization, and I am a board-certified Christian mental health coach, which basically means that I fill that gap between what the counselors do and what you could find like in your job services or in the church. So I'm kind of right in that middle. And I like to focus on what are people's needs and their goals. So we have a lot of services that we do. So I'm sure we'll talk about them besides just, coaching, but we have some really fun tools that we can use too.
It's so awesome because you always like to say, I'm the person, you're here and you want to get to here. And I'm the person that can help you do that. So, and that's in every aspect of our life. So we're real excited to dig a little bit deeper into everything. I want to go ahead and welcome some people this morning that are watching. We have Roxy Kelly, who I know you know.
Morning, Roxy.
We have Melissa Dixon. And Cindy Edmonds and LaVon Cheney. So I thought that
Girl grew.
I thought you might recognize a few of those names.
Yes.
Yes. We love our morning folks, that's for sure. So let's talk about this a little bit deeper. So what areas do you specialize in, or what types of situations do you help coach through?
Well, I specialize in what I call life recovery and addictions. So you may think, well, I don't have addictions and life is going okay, and I'm not in recovery, so that would mean I don't need life recovery. But really, life recovery starts with the fact that when we were little, we really had this picture in our mind of this is what it was going to be like when I grew up, and I was going to do all of these things, and then something happens, and that is not the life that you have. And so instead of living in bitterness and resentment or being upset or feeling less than about yourself for the rest of your life, we call that life recovery. So that's kind of what Glenna was alluding to, that this is where you are. This is what has gotten us to this point. And in therapy, we kind of like go back and look at why this happened and what are these patterns. I don't do that. I'm a coach. I don't really care what happened before. I want you to tell me what you think are the most important things that got you to this point. And from that, we're going to say, this is where you want to go. And then we're going to build a bridge. And from the bridge, that's how we learn what the resources are we need. If there's any emotional tools that are lacking, if we need to work on conflict resolution, if you're afraid of conflict, if you've never really been angry and been allowed to express what anger looks like. So that's really where that goes. I work with families, individuals, teams, and I love it. I love working in groups, and especially with like small groups, just a couple people.
So I guess that's what really separates you from, you're not considered a therapist, right. You're a coach, because you don't focus on the past.
Correct.
Focusing on the future. How do we get there?
Exactly. It's a completely different set of licensing. So the code of ethics for a therapist, which at Waterstone, I work right alongside a therapist. I work alongside Heather Parker, the two Heathers. She is the therapist. And so that's the line that she works in. She does a lot of the past and the EMDR, which is the eye movement desensitization regimen. And it's wonderful for working with trauma. So she works through that with them and allows their brain to come out of the traumatic response. And then once they're stabilized and they're at a place where like, okay, I'm ready to really start focusing on my future, then I tag team and I come in and work for the next part with them. So
perfect. Wow. So you got all the resources.
Well, that's what we like to do is really, it's so hard. It seems like if you need a chiropractor, you have to go over here. If you need, an endocrinologist, you go here. If you need some health things, you have to go to the gym. Like what we wanted to do was everything had to do with your central nervous system and the way your body, mind, and soul work. We wanted to be able to provide that. So that's really where we focused our certifications and our licenses and really like our philosophy for how we want to do it. So
it's perfect. And what I really love too about you is that you can work with individuals like you mentioned, but you can work with groups, and that includes businesses. Yeah. And one of my favorite things that you do is the career, what is it called? The career direct tool. And tell us a little bit about that, because I love this assessment and it's really great for businesses and the people that they're wanting to hire and see how they fit. So tell us a little bit about that tool.
And we all got that assessment.
Yeah, we all have taken it. I love it.
We've all been assessed prior to employment.
Before we started our little practice, I kind of felt embarrassed. I said, okay, I know y'all don't know, but I feel like I know you really well, because each of the employees that work for Fusion One Marketing, Glenna and Rob, the owners, they pay for these potential candidates to do the assessment. And so what the employer does is they give me a job description, and then they give me the person's name and email, and then I'll send them an online assessment. And they take this assessment, which was made by Crown Financial Ministries, and it's maybe 45 minutes or so. But literally, it is, I believe one of Glenna's employees calls it a soul assessment, because it basically goes into the design of how you were made, not just your personality, which is what most employers kind of get to, is like your personalities, but it also goes into the abilities that you have, what are the supporting skills and mindset that you bring in. And then my favorite one is what motivates you and what kind of environment you need for work. So, if you have a flexible environment and you have someone who needs it to be the same every single time, I can look at that job description and look at what their assessment shows. And then I can talk those owners or those employers through what it's looking like, what the next level of interview questions needs to be for this person, so they can decide, is this a fit for us? There have been times with Glenna and Rob, especially, where I'm like, I just don't see this as a fit for y'all. And I have to say it as delicately as possible. Or if there's been someone that employer has hired without doing the service, and then I meet them and there's like a disconnect, that's where I have that responsibility to go back to the employer who's, working with me as a client in some way, to let them know that I have that check in my spirit that something is not going to work with this person. And then we can do the assessment after the fact. And it kind of always reveals it. It's the neatest tool ever.
It is.
It's so diverse.
It
Yeah,
reveals.
it helps that not only the individual, but the employer, to kind of help them with their, what you say, some soul searching and even career searching to be like, hey, this is kind of what I want, but really may not be the most suitable for me and my personality.
Absolutely. I've actually worked with companies here in Birmingham that use it as an offboarding. Like if they know that this employee is not going to work with them because it's a wrong fit in the culture or it's a wrong fit within the work team, because that happens sometimes. Then they'll send them to me as part of their exit package and let me work with them to get them ready for what should the next steps be. And it's amazing how many great descriptors come out of that assessment to help the person retool their resume to put actual true things about them instead of trying to build towards a job, but actually describe them and help the employer that's looking for something in an employee look at it and go, okay, yeah, that's why I want to call them. I want to call them. So It's fun. I love it.
Yeah, for sure. So you also have some other tools that can kind of help with personal growth. And one of them is the Enneagram. Am I saying that correctly?
Enneagram.
I'm sorry. Enneagram coaching. So what exactly is that? Because that's new to me. I know Glenn and Kelsey have heard of that, but what's that about?
Okay, so Enneagram means Ennea is Greek for 9 and gram is a model. And this has been around for hundreds of years, but in the last probably 20 years, it has really hit the mainstream in America. It's been all over. But within the last, like I said, 20 years in America, it's become huge. And then within the last 10 years, I would say even like the churches are starting to use it. And what it is 9 personality types that are all, number neutral. So it doesn't matter if you're a 1, doesn't mean you're, little and the 9 is the biggest, but it's 1 through 9. And it shows you how your personality is part of the design that you were given at birth, but it's also going to show what are the things that you're going to struggle with. What are the things that you're going to need? So in a work environment, what are you going to be longing for? So when you have a work team that is fine until there's a conflict, this would be a great thing to do with them. It's so much fun. It's just a 3-hour workshop, and it is incredible to see how you change your perspective because you were receiving what they did from your personality and not realizing that that was their personality and they were trying to get something. Mm-hmm. And they may not have those words to articulate it, but that's what's happening. When we engage with people, sometimes we're trying to get our needs met and we're afraid to tell them what our fear is or our needs. So we're just going about it in a way that has worked previously. Sometimes that doesn't work now.
So explain to us how the Enneagram test allows individuals to get on track and then stay on track.
Sure. Okay. So the Enneagram, and I'll just give you an example. There's 9 numbers. I'm a 7. So if you look at the Enneagram, the 7 is what they call the happy optimist.
Go figure.
I mean, come on. If you can't find a silver lining, you already are in heaven and it's underneath your feet. Okay. So there's a way to be happy in every situation from my personality's point of view. Also, what I do as a 7, there's attributes that each one of us have. So like as a 7, the attribute that we radiate to this world is joy. Makes sense, right? So it was so sweet. Sarah said that I had this like positive energy. And I was like, oh, it's joy. But that's the thing. It comes from inside and it just naturally oozes out. So that's what a 7 has. Okay. So as a 7, when I'm in a healthy place, it's going to look joyful. But as I get down into the part of my personality, and everybody has it, that's average, then I'll switch from being joyful to trying to get my needs met through using my personality, which means I could tell jokes, be funny, be the light of the party, but I'm just trying to fill up a hole in me that is saying I'm less than. And then when we get all the way down into the average to unhealthy portion, that's when I feel like I'm alone and nobody's for me and I'm isolated. And that's where, like in my personality, that's where addictions would come from, because the opposite of joy would be gluttony. And so if I'm not satisfied in who I am and how I'm living, and I'm migrating down towards, this is my need and I'm not getting it met, and I'm in that defensive place, I'm going to be looking for joy anywhere, anything to fill the hole that I'm feeling, because a 7 hates emotional trauma and pain. Like, we don't like sadness. Ooh, at all. So there's attributes. So you'll learn about that. You'll also learn like what the guardrails are. So like you can start seeing different things at levels. Whereas like at a 4 before, if I didn't know it, I wouldn't have recognized what it looks like when I stop telling people the truth about what I'm dealing with. And I'm just telling them the good things. Now I know that when I get in that pattern, I'm at a 4 and I need to put some guardrails up, take care of myself, and then I can be my better self. If not, I know that I can go quickly down into this, place of self-soothing that's not really appropriate. So, but we can do that with all of them. And it's so much fun because you're like, oh, I've been there. I've been there. I don't ever want to go there. And then you're like, okay. And it's, some people call it maturation. Some people call it sanctification. But it's a process of learning who you are, what you have as strengths, and how you can use your strengths not to get what you want, but to help others. And that's what keeps you up in that healthy part.
Cool.
So raising self-awareness on a massive scale.
Oh, absolutely. And can you imagine if you did that in your organization, the self-awareness that you would have, the team awareness, and then the culture that you're trying to provide for your employees and to get your company where you want, it's unbelievable. It takes things out of just conflict into, hey, how are we going to fix this for the long term? And I think that makes people feel safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think that helps so much with kind of like you talk about like the self-sabotage aspect of it, of we have these almost triggers and we react a certain way and then not fully making the connection of why that is. But I think it's so valuable that you talked about with the joy aspect. When it's not present, it's like a trigger and some of the things that we react. So it's so good at kind of making that connection so you don't self-sabotage again.
Yes. And, that's the connection. If you can make the connection from the self-sabotage, like you said, and the trigger. So if you know what your tendency is, and then you can start to recognize those triggers, you can't control a trigger, but you can already plan ahead of how you're going to respond when this happens. And so for me, that's the best part. Sorry, I had a tickle, not COVID.
What do we call it? What did you call it? Frog mouth?
Frog throat.
Frog throat.
I wish I sounded like Demi Moore when I had a frog throat.
Yeah, right.
Well, we have some other people joining us this morning. We have Gay Chambers. She said, Heather rocks. Yes, she does. Gail Mason. And Melissa says that she knows she's a 3, Melissa Dixon. So she's had the Enneagram.
She is absolutely a 3. She's
And then Lance is
an achiever.
She's an achiever. She's definitely achiever or overachiever. I would say that falls.
There's good in all of us. If you want to know, for 3s, their attribute is hope. And when it comes down to when they're getting to the unhealthy, that is deceit. So we all have something good. We all have something bad. But I don't think I've ever witnessed Melissa anywhere past the average.
No.
Glenna, have you ever taken the test?
I have not, but it feels like I need to.
I know. This has got me so curious. I want to take it too.
Well, I even do it for premarital counseling for couples. And it teaches them so much about what's going to happen when they get pushed on different roles, different communication styles, when they get stressed about work, so that you don't take it personal if somebody recluses. For me as a 7, I'm such an outgoing person, but when I get hurt, I immediately go home. I'm taking my toys, I'm going home, I'm going to sit with my dog. I have to figure it out. Well, a lot of personalities can be misread because they have this outward appearance and then they have this inward that they're dealing with. So I think it's great for couples. And even if you're in trouble in your marriage, this would be a fun way to get some of the conflicts out on the table and not look at them like it's this person's fault. It's just, this is how they're made. So you got to accept that about them and stop arguing about the way they're made, argue about the issues. Makes sense.
Yeah, and you have all these awesome tools, but that's where your coaching part comes in. You understand them, you understand how to read them, and you understand how to use them to help everybody. So that's huge. And I know that you do because we've worked with you on several things. Roxy Kelly works with a lot of corporate people. She said she wants to know, she said, what has been the biggest turnaround with any of your corporate clients that you've worked with?
Biggest turnaround. Feel free if you want to share anything, Glenna. But
well, yeah, I think that I love the career assessment thing, Roxy. That would be first, and the Enneagram is new to me, so I think that would be something second that you need to take. But as a group, all of us had the assessment, and Heather we met with our whole group, and she went through everybody's assessment to talk about our strengths and weaknesses and how we could all work together. And that was an awesome session. That was a couple of years ago. And they gave us all the aha moments, like, oh, that's why Glenna always does this way. That's why Rob is just as nurturing or whatever, but he has a different way of doing it, and how to react to all of us. So I would say the biggest turnaround is that you can help the culture of a company come from all these different pieces down to one group, and how you can work together the best, if that makes sense. At least that's what you did for us. And
I think that's probably it. When someone is in a place of leadership, whether it's over a team or even like they manage all of these people and they've got projects that they're having to do, it can get to where everybody feels like an isolated tower, and they do what they do. And if they need help, they go to the manager. Well, what I can do is help that manager learn that person, learn how they're working in the team, and then, like you said, make the culture to where they don't feel so isolated. And especially with COVID, I mean, most of us are working remotely, at least part-time. So there is that connection part to where you know the person and the way that they've been made so that you can nurture that, not just their professional performance, but their personal development so that they want to stay at this company because I'm not going to get that somewhere else. So I think that really helps culture. It also helps the person know this is the company. This is the type of company. They invest in their people because they'll learn as much as the employer will about them. So it's not really one-sided. Like the employer pays for it, so they get all of this information. It's very two-sided. So it helps with the leadership and the development of the employee, but it also helps you to get the culture the way you want to. And I know for like Glenna and Rob, there was a specific culture they wanted to set. And we went in with that mindset. This is what we're looking for. This is where we're going to go. And these are the type of people we want so that we ensure a certain level of quality that we never, ever go beneath. Our integrity is never going to be questioned with our employees because we have vetted them. And so, those type of objectives from the employer really help me to set the path for where we're going to go and how we're going to get there.
Well, and it's very important too. What another thing that you helped us with is, what is this person, their capabilities? In other words, don't ask them to do a job that they're not made to do, because that just causes all kinds of problems. What are their strengths? What do they like to do? So that was eye-opening to me. And I know Sarah and Kelsey and we all talk about, a lot of times I'll be like, I need to look back at that assessment and just see if this piece of our work, because it's always changing, would even fit with that person. Would Kelsey thrive in that position? Because, you want to enjoy work as much as possible. It's still work, but you don't want to be banging your head against the wall. But
yeah, and it's also help with like motivators and just once somebody is hired, it's so good to know kind of how to keep them motivated. And everybody is so different in that category. Some people feel like I need that constant good job, you're doing well, I'm so glad you did this, while others are like, just let me stay in my lane and I don't need all the fluff. I can just get my, you know what I mean? And you just realize how valuable that is, because after all, once they're hired, you want to keep them motivated.
Right. I totally agree. And that's one of my favorite parts about that Career Direct is that it will actually reveal that. And the funny thing is, like one time there was a person who was trying to get a job and they were, it was a sales position basically. lots of rejection. You got to get through about 9 or 10 no's before you get a yes. And this person's biggest fear was rejection. Well, that is a huge eye opener for me when I'm vetting someone that, okay, they're not going to want to do the 10 no's. They're going to do much better in an environment where they're already a customer and you are developing a relationship with them, and then you could upsell them. That's a different role. So completely different role than a salesperson. Or my other favorite one is sometimes you'll get a person who's not motivated by money. Now, that is usually typically not your salesperson. Most people are goal-oriented. They like to get a goal and they like to be rewarded for their goal. So, it's just little things like that. And then we can work with that employer. And they're like, but I really want this person in the environment. Okay, well, then this would be a good way to use them within your structure, if that makes sense.
Rob says his assessment was so far off.
Did you cheat, Rob?
Yeah.
No,
somebody can't handle the truth. Just kidding.
And really, that's the hard part, is sometimes I have to deliver things to them that they're not aware of. And,
like you have a tendency to be a murderer or something?
Hey,
Not that bad.
You are. There are people out there.
Well, yeah, it was funny because we were like on our way to Indiana or someplace, and so we put Heather on speakerphone just for something to do to go through both of our assessments, and he was like, "Do I do that? Do I do that?" He goes, "I sound like an asshole." I said, "No, you just know what you want and you know how to get there." He goes, "Is that true?" So it was just so funny and so cute. But and I was the same way. I pretty much had it down the line, but there were a few things that surprised me. But anyway, the test is fun. All of these tools are so fun, but the most important thing is that you can coach them through how to make them work. So if you're an individual and you want to come and meet with you, what is the initial process that you do with clients? And do you have a frequency that you recommend that people come every so often? I know that's probably different for every tool that you have, but
yeah, really, most people come to see me and they're like, okay, I've got these goals. And they'll tell me what their goals are. And I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. I'll give them the online assessment to do for the Enneagram, which will take them about 30 minutes. They usually have done that before they come in or after the first session. The first session I meet with them is usually an hour, hour and a half, just depending on what they can put into their time schedule. And we call that the intake. It's just a industry term. After that, after I've heard what their goals are and we kind of see if we're a good fit, personality and the way I articulate things, because I like to use a lot of word pictures and tell stories. And some people are like, cut to the chase. I'm not your girl. I like to use 10 words when you could use 4. It's okay. But if we're a good fit and I know what your goals are and we look at the Enneagram, then I'll kind of show you what the Enneagram reveals about what it'll look like to get to those goals. And in that process is when we figure out what the self-sabotaging is, what are maybe some of those internal thoughts that you believe about yourself that are holding you back. Almost like that, like some people, I call it the internal critic, what you hear when you're trying to do something new, because all of those things we've got to address to get you there. So, some people are like, well, I want to come once a month. And I'm like, that's great. So when they come in, I will give them, we'll talk through what they've been working on, where they're at, any realizations. Then there'll be homework. And the homework that they do on their own. And then they come back in and we process it. And it's like I'm holding them accountable to keep walking, keep doing it. But they can touch base with me by phone or text in between sessions, and it's not a charge. That's the difference between a coach and a therapist again, because my code of ethics and my licensure allows me to have a personal relationship outside of the office space. So my malpractice doesn't just cover the office space. It covers what I'm doing with them in the whole process. So that's pretty great to me. And then when they come back, we assess. Sometimes you've had a crappy week and you didn't get it done. And I have had some clients like starting a business that they want to come once a week or they want to come once every 2 weeks. And then there's some that are like, once a month is fine, but can I check in on the phone and text? Absolutely. Budget is never going to be an issue for me because I'm a single mom. And I don't think that just because the resource that sometimes I lack might be finances, it's not going to keep me from getting to where I want to be. And so that's what I try to do, is work within the person's financial budget and then give them the service that I would want. And so I go a little bit above and beyond what the expectation is, just so that they never feel like if it was money or if it was time or if it was belief in themselves that was their lacking resource, that's what kept them from getting to their goal.
Perfect.
That's powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Do you want to take that question from LaVon? Or I can pop it up here. She wants to know if you recommend individuals go through therapy part first before they see you for the life coaching.
Well, that depends on the person. I will be quite honest and say most men hate therapy. Okay. The idea of going to sit to somebody and have to share things that they may not want to share is not so great. A lot of threes don't like going to therapy. Because the way they look at themselves is, I'm an accumulation of everything that's happened. So good, bad, or ugly, this is who I am and I'm going forward. So a person who has a mindset that can be open in coaching and say, yeah, in the past, this has really been the one hurdle that I can't overcome. If a person can do that, and we can look at that pattern and I can go, oh, okay, well, tell me a time when that happened. And if they can just tell me the time and we can process the time, then we don't have to go all the way back and do the therapy for that. If we find that when they get to that place where it's like, yeah, this has happened several times and it always stops me, like I'm paralyzed when this happens, then we make the determination, is this something where you want to go back? So it's not necessarily that you've got to do therapy first to get a coach, because a lot of times you didn't know that you needed therapy. And sometimes you're like, okay, look, if you think I need a therapist, I'm going to tell you to work harder. And I've had people tell me that, like, work harder, because this is not therapeutic. I want to go forward. I want to take today and move on. And that's fine. We just have to get you the right resources. And sometimes it means we'll do a workshop. And we'll do a little bit of intensive work, but it's okay. We can work with anybody. It doesn't have to be you've been graduated from therapy. You don't need that. There's no
There's another service that you provide is, and let's see if I can get this right, which is microcurrent neurofeedback. So
correct.
Ding, ding, ding. So what is that exactly?
Well, this is a process that puts an incredibly small microcurrent into different portions of your brain. So I've had people say, oh, electric shock.
That's the way I tell people.
Electric shock is on this pendulum. All the way over here would be microcurrent. So to give people a visual, I typically say, do you remember the old stem and TENS units that we had, like when you hurt a muscle? And it would go in and it would put just a little bit of a current in. Or if you go to a chiropractor and they do that where you lay down and they put those on your back and it turns up. Well, what we do is kind of similar to that. We're going to have leads, and we put 2 as reference leads, and they go right on the front on your mandible. And if you have TMJ, we just use the mastoid, which is a bone right behind your ear. But you'll have a reference lead, which sends me back the signal. You'll have a ground on the back of your neck that says this is where the current is going to stay. And then I'll have 2 active leads. And those active leads are the ones where the actual current's going in. So based on the symptoms that you have, whether it's ADD, anxiety, depression, sleep issues like apnea or insomnia, restless leg syndrome, PTSD, stroke injuries, or if you had a concussion, we do a lot of work with that in the areas of the brain that you are struggling with. And then we do these little currents. So like it's 20 seconds of this tiny little current. And that night, your brain starts to reset. And it'll go back to the way it was before the injury, before the trauma, before this response, almost like autonomic responses. Like it just happens. I didn't mean for this to happen, but he said this and I responded this way. And this gives us that chance to separate from it. And it retrains our brain. And it's fascinating.
It is
really fascinating. So is it kind of work essentially kind of like a massage where the masseuse works all those toxins out of, and then overnight it kind of just comes out of your body?
That is exactly, great parallel, because, we've got these ruts, and the more often you do something in your brain, those neural paths get deeper and deeper. So just like the rest of our body that gets metabolic waste, there's metabolic waste in our brain. And so as those ruts get really deep, then it's harder and harder for them to make a change because that waste will get on it. So when we put that current in there, it lifts that waste up. And then that's why we have people really drink a lot of water that day, just like you'll leave a massage and they're like, don't forget your water. Drink a lot of water that day. And I always tell people, treat yourself to a very good meal. Good proteins, good clean vegetables, and a nice cup of coffee at night, like if you need it, but something that just soothes you, whatever is your happy. But yeah, it's a wonderful gift if you want to. We do like specials for Christmas if someone wanted to give things like that as a Christmas present, because self-care is the thing that we forget as business owners and women. It's very difficult for us to manage that. So this would be something that they could try and see if it works for them. I've had people get off of depression medicine, anxiety medicine, not need to take their medicine to go to sleep at night, have gone from like prescription down to like taking a melatonin.
Wow.
So it's amazing what it can do if you just allow your brain to reset.
Wow.
I know.
So fascinating.
It's so cool.
We're all like, I wonder what she can do for me.
It's so cool. And like I have clients that are 8 years old that are stressed out beyond belief and their anxiety levels are so high, and they'll come in and we'll do this. And within 3 weeks, they can take tests at school. They're not afraid. And of course, I talk to them through the whole time. I'm not quiet. But, so I'm kind of coaching them and talking through and finding out what's the issues. But it's fascinating to me. I think my oldest client was 90, 85, 90, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to do those type of sessions with you, what do you recommend as far as how many should they do? Is there a set amount or?
It's going to vary for each person. You can do them individually. It costs a little bit more to do them individually, but typically, like if you buy a package of 10, through Christmas, we're going to do a special where if you prepay for the package, it's $900 for 10. So that's $90 a session.
Yeah.
If you just pay along the way, it's $120 a session. So you get about a 30% savings by prepaying.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah. And usually the first 2 or 3, you become very self-aware of things. Like I've had clients leave and say, I think my eyes got better. And I'm like, well, the brain fog is what's lifting, but they think their eyes are better. I've had clients come in and go, oh, is that a new painting? And I'm like, no, that's been here for 3 years. But because they've had this tunnel vision of trying to get through their life, once you remove that, then they can start to take in other things. And so the emotional toll on your brain goes down. And so they can become more productive in other ways. So usually by the first time you'll tell me you got the best night of sleep you've ever had. The second time you're like a baby. I'm not frustrated with people. Like people will do the same stupid thing and I can look at them and go, and then by the third time people are like, okay, there's something to this. And I'm like, I know, right? But usually we'll do it once a week. And then about 5 to 6 weeks in, then we'll stretch it and we'll go to once every 2 weeks. And then if you can maintain your results at once every 2 weeks, then we just keep it there. If you want to stretch again, then we can go to like once every 3 or once every 4 weeks. And then people can just maintain from there and they'll just call me and go, hey, I know it's been forever, but can I get an appointment? And they'll just do another one. So at that point, after you've done your whole package, if you want to do the package, then we just do $100 per session after that, or you can continue to buy at that package rate. It's your choice and get the $10 extra. But it's really one of those things where I don't think you have to do it every week after you do the first couple to get yourself reset. But it's one of the things that I know once I go past a month, I'm like, okay, hit me. I need to refresh.
Give me the brain juice.
Yeah, that's some brain crap that needs to go.
That's so interesting. That's amazing. And so Gail's wanting to know, is anything covered by insurance?
Okay. The way we work insurance, some do. Marketplace does not. Just saying. If you've got Marketplace, it does not cover it. But if you have a diagnosis from any type of physician, whether it's ADD, general anxiety, which they would almost give anybody general anxiety. I shouldn't say it like that.
We all have general anxiety. That's everybody.
If you're the diagnosis from a physician,
right?
Just like in the billing codes, they'll have that code. You can sign a release, and they send us the form that says this is the diagnosis. And then what we do is we put that on your treatment plan. Okay, so it'll say biofeedback, and then it'll say the diagnosis from your doctor. We do not accept insurance, but what happens is if you clarify that with your insurance beforehand, then you can just turn that in for reimbursement. And they may pay the whole thing, and they may pay part. I've had several clients who they paid it all. And then I've had several clients that were like, we're only going to pay half. And it's up to them to decide that, but you can always ask them before you ever do it. What diagnosis they would need, because you probably have a diagnosis that would qualify. PTSD, ADD, ADHD, insomnia, sleep apnea, Parkinson's. It's amazing what we can work with. Any kind of TBIs, concussion protocols, all of that. You should be able to get a connective code that would help you to get reimbursement.
Cool. Steve Johnson is saying good morning.
Good morning.
All right, Sarah.
All righty. Okay, let me get this banner up here. We want to get all your contact information out to the masses.
Yay.
So we're going to, let me get this. I cannot, I by habit, I always want to read there, but
it goes too fast.
I know. So Heather Davis, Waterstone Counseling, you can email her at hd@waterstonecounseling.org or call her directly at 205-206-9633. And their website is waterstonecounseling.org. Well, this has been amazing. I mean, truly, it's been, and it's so timely too. I mean, I think we all need a little, our brains are all spinning out of control right now.
What is up is not always up in 2020.
That is so true. I do want to say, I didn't want to miss Cindy's question, but it kind of went back to Enneagrams. Let's just finish up with that before we, I didn't want to skip it. She said, have you done assessments or Enneagrams for realtors? Because she is a realtor. And what kinds of things did they show?
Well, it's pretty cool if you think about it, but inside of the realty industry, there's a lot of different types of people. There are the people that love to do open houses, the people who want to be with the buyer. They love being on that end of it. Then you've got folks that go into real estate and they're like, you really just want to sit behind a desk and you want to crunch numbers. Within a real estate team, there are different roles that need to be filled. And so, yeah, it would be great if you were a part of a team and you wanted to see how that's working or where it could even be tweaked to allow that team to more be able to produce, effectively use their time and the skills that are within the team. That would be awesome. But yeah, there's not necessarily like all realtors are not threes, although I know a lot of realtors that are threes and they're typically your top producers because they set their mind on the goal of the number of houses they're going to sell, the number of people they're going to serve, or however. But they typically need a team that will be able to do the paperwork, be able to do the contract, all of those things. So everybody's got their strength. So it's not like you have to be a 3 to be a realtor. It's just there are things that every personality would bring. So like a 7 would be an awesome person on a real estate team. They would be able to get anything started for you and make you feel totally at home and help you to find the house that you love. They also will probably have somebody who does the administration side, who does the follow-up. Because 7s like me, we don't like follow-up. When I'm with you, you've got me. I am like elephant ears. You have 100% of me. But when I walk away, guess what? There's somebody else, and they have 100% of me. So, that's the thing. You just have to learn in your team. But yeah, I think realtors would love it. And they do so much personal development. This would be a fun thing for them to do.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I'm like sitting here thinking, I wonder, is my husband a 7? Like, where does he fall?
We're usually a lot of fun and were the same person who said yes to bringing home the milk on the way home from work and came home without it.
Oh boy, then he's for sure a 7. And then I'll have a real grand story of like, well, let me tell you what happened. I'm like, where's the milk?
I don't care. Where's the milk? And I'm like, it's in the store, but you're not going to believe what just happened to me.
Right. It was so crazy. I was in here and I ran into so-and-so and then we got to talk about this. And I'm like, I still need my milk.
Yeah, that probably sounds like a 7.
Oh, like you said, they all bring something though. So.
We do. And I think that's the fun part about what I do is a lot of times people only hear the negatives in life. They only hear where their weaknesses are. And
True.
Even if that's not all they've heard, that's really all they receive into themselves is, I need to work on this, 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 and this. And so what I like to do is really work from a strength base. And it's, like I'm a 7 with ADD. That's funny. I mean, if a 7 doesn't have it hard enough to finish things, I have ADD. And that means I like to work on 52 things at one time. And then the flip side of ADD is anxiety, which means I feel really bad that I'm not getting stuff done, but really not that bad. And so that just happens. Well, when a person learns that is how you were created, you were made that way, you just weren't supposed to live in isolation. You need people around you, because it's shocking how many times if I say, yeah, I love this idea, I just don't have any bandwidth to do it, somebody else will go, oh, I bet I could help with that. And that's what happens. We aren't supposed to be by ourselves. It's all about connection, and it's all about personal development so that we can help others reach their goals too. So that's why I think this is really good, because it works from a strength base. I always try to keep it on that strength base, because if I could just increase my strengths and not play to my weaknesses, that's going to help me overcome self-sabotage anyway.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
Awesome. Okay, we're going to end this with a nice, quick, fun game called the hot seat. So buckle up, Heather.
All right. Let me get her rolling.
Okay.
Let's get that wheel up there.
So this wheel, it's just a random. We're going to click on it, and it's going to pick which game we're going to play today.
here we go.
Oh, I can't stand it.
5-second rule.
Oh,
Okay.
We haven't played this one yet.
I feel like you're the perfect one for this. I really do.
I don't even know what it is, but it sounds fun.
Okay. And we might have to mute our mics.
We'll mute.
Okay. So here's how it works. I'm going to just list off 3 things in one category, and you have 5 seconds to give me the 3 things that come to your head. So I'm just going to name, a type of something, and then you just give me 3 for that within 5 seconds. And if you don't make the 5 seconds, then I'm going to, oh boy. Nope, it just wasn't on. I'm going to beat you.
Point of clarification. Is this like G-rated, PG-rated? Like,
oh, it's G-rated. It's only up to you if you take it further than that.
okay, so it's P-rated. What is P? PG? Okay.
You don't care.
All the questions are, but it's fine.
We don't care. You're
Yeah.
good.
We don't have any rules.
Do you want still 60 seconds, Sarah? Or no?
Yeah, and then I'll just wait. It's going to probably go a little bit longer than that. So I'll do the clock. I don't mind doing it because I kind of have to stop it each time that she does a question.
Oh, really?
Do what?
I'm the only one answering?
Yes, we did
yeah.
a lot.
Great.
Okay. Are you ready?
I think.
Okay. Here we go. 3 forms of communication.
Verbal, nonverbal, and social media.
Wow, you got it. Okay. 3 things you cut.
Oh, my nails, my hair, and the grass.
Good job. 3 ways to say hello.
Hey, y'all. Ciao. And oh.
Okay. 3 things you find in a garage.
Oh, my car, the dog food, and the chicken food.
Let you go. 3 types of drinks.
Tequila, vodka, and whiskey.
God, those are the fastest answers you gave. Three sharp objects.
Oh, a knife, scissors, and an ice pick.
An ice pick. 3 modes of transportation.
A car, train, and a airplane.
3 things that smell bad.
Oh my gosh. Burning leaves, burnt popcorn, and asparagus cooking.
Asparagus cooking, yeah, that's good. 3 fast food restaurants.
Chick-fil-A. I don't know. Taco Bell, my kids, and Burger King.
Okay, 3 words you shout.
Don't start yet. I have to come up with PGs.
Okay, I'm gonna say 3 words that you shout now.
Dang it. Shoot and ruffle feathers.
Okay, that's it.
You did good. Heather,
I heard not what you say.
Heather, how come you didn't say you shout Roll Tide?
Oh, because I don't think of it as a shout. That's like a call. That's like a...
That's just
Yeah,
a way
when
of
I
living.
shout, I think I'm yelling at somebody. And yeah.
Ruffle feathers.
I'm gonna start using
That's
that.
really not what I say.
Oh
Like,
boy.
it took me a minute. I had to go from authentic brain to inauthentic brain.
Well, I'll tell you what, we have enjoyed having you so much. And I can't believe the time's gone by so quickly, but it's so much great information. So you can help people. You can help anything, it sounds like. So if you have a problem or you just want to figure some stuff out and reach your goals, Heather's the person for you to call. And so thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for asking. It's been a blast. You have made my Friday off to a great start.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We had such a great time. And don't forget our marketing mix on Tuesdays at 8:00. And also come back next Friday for our next Biz Talk session at 8:00 as well. So we will see y'all then.
Bye.